Right, we're going to take a look at my England World Cup squad for Qatar. We're going to go through the 26 players that I feel have to be on the plane. Do get into the comments and let me know who you think should be on the plane to Qatar. We're going to go through goalkeepers, defenders, fullbacks, midfielders, which we're going to break down into the 6s, the 8s, and the 10s. Then we're going to get our right wingers, our left wingers, and our centre forwards. We're going to stick to Gareth Southgate's systems, the 4-2-3-1 and the 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1, however you want to look at it. They're the two systems that Gareth Southgate plays, so we need to build our squad around that. We're going to go a little bit outside the box. We're going to have some players in there that you might not think should be going. But quite frankly, I think they should be going. Right, let's start with the first place, goalkeepers. So England goalkeepers that I think should be considered for this World Cup squad. We have Dean Henderson, we've got Jordan Pickford, we have Nick Pope, and we have Aaron Ramsdale. First up, Dean Henderson, obviously playing for Nottingham Forest this season. A number of penalty saves that have been big for Nottingham Forest. He's actually made the most saves of any goalkeeper this season, but has conceded the second most goals. Jordan Pickford, on the other hand, is one of only two keepers with an assist this season. He's also overperforming his post-shot expected goals, saving Everton an extra 4 goals. Nick Pope, of course, best save percentage in the league at 81%. And finally, Ramsdale has got the second most clean sheets. So obviously, England need to pick 3 goalkeepers for their squad. And we got 4 here, so we're going to have to drop one of our keepers. I think first and foremost, my number 1 for this squad would be Aaron Ramsdale. I think what Ramsdale brings in terms of his attitude, but also his ability to play out from the back, is really important for my England team. I think that's going to be a big part of how England play in the World Cup. You know, they've got to be expansive. They've got to be able to beat teams. I think one of the big concerns, with the last European Championships with Jordan Pickford, I think there was issues there against Italy in that final, and then you look back to the World Cup previously, Croatia pressed England out of the back in a similar way. I think bringing, having Ramsdale as the number 1 is a big one there to help England play through, and he's also a pretty decent goalkeeper as well. I think we've got to throw Pickford in as well, because he's definitely a good, second choice if Ramsdale gets injured. Of course, overperforming his post-shot expected goals this season shows that he still has that kind of quality around him and the ability to get in there. Throwing our third keeper between Nick Pope and Dean Henderson. I'm probably going to go with Nick Pope. I think I like what he's done this season for Newcastle United, or especially maybe under Eddie Howe. I think he's evolved his game. The sweeper actions, the best in the Premier League, the best in Europe at one point. I think we're going to go with that. So just to complete our kind of squad, we're taking Nick Pope, we're taking Pickford, and Ramsdale is going to be our number 1 in our team. Right, moving on to right backs. I think the right back spot is a really interesting one. Unfortunately, Reece James will miss the tournament with injury. Same with Kyle Walker. And I wouldn't sort of gamble and take either of those 2 players if they're not going to be right now and kind of going into the tournament with fitness and with form. So right back, it opens up an interesting conversation. Of course, looking at players that can fulfill that role, the likes of Ben White at Arsenal this season has been absolutely superb. You could potentially put Joe Gomez there. Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to be someone that you've really got to, look for of being, obviously a solid option here as well. So there is a few options for right back. Kyle Walker-Peters has made a recent squad as well, so could be used in that role to facilitate playing out for the back. James Justin could be there as well. And I can't find Trent Alexander-Arnold in my list, which is a little bit of a worry because TAA has to be going there. So we're going to go with, I think, first choice. I think we're going to go with Ben White being first choice. And I'll go through my reasons why. I think that obviously Kieran Trippier would provide a really good, quality in that position. Going forward, and definitely will be in the squad. Got to be in the squad, not only because his set pieces, but it offers something different. But tactically, we're going to look at it in a slightly different way. From that, in a sense of we're going to be building our team out to deal with a number of different situations. So I think the big one for, if we're playing Ben White at right back, I think the interesting side with Bukayo Saka obviously plays at Arsenal with Ben White. The relationship between those two is very, very good. I think because of the nature of the World Cup and the kind of the length of the tournament means that you've got to have those relationships together. And with Arsenal kind of sitting top of the Premier League right now, and the kind of already the gamesmanship in a sense of Saka wide, Ben White very comfortable, driving inside into that central area, but also kind of balancing it on the other side. It also gives you the option for England to have one of your sort of right defensive midfielder to move into that inside area to create a front five, and Ben White can just sit as a kind of third centre-half in there. I also think Ben White is a great option to play in a back three as well. So definitely goes. But I also quite like obviously Kieran Trippier is going to be a good option if you want a more attack-minded, traditional wing-back that's going to get into the final third and cross. I think you need both those options, but I like Ben White maybe in the bigger games, in the important games, just to add that kind of third centre-back in there. And again, we know that the kind of meta in European football right now is kind of playing three centre-backs in there and building with three, kind of building in a 3-2-5 shape, which England should really adopt with it. But again, interesting. I think that's kind of a level of my sort of preference of this team to do that. Obviously, you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold in the squad. He's definitely got to go as another attacking option. But I'd quite like to see him in midfield as well. We'll talk about that as we go through. But also you've got the likes of Trippier that we need to add in as well. It feels like we missed a few players. We missed Kieran Trippier as well in there. So he definitely comes into our squad. And definitely, either Ben White or Trippier, dependent on kind of how we look out and how we build the team. Let's move on to our centre-backs. England, of course, playing a back five at times, three centre-halves. So I think you need those ball-playing centre-backs. You also need someone that's going to be very comfortable playing through the middle as a centre-back. The options with England, the likes of Dan Burn, Connor Cody, Aaron Cresswell I'm going to put into this category, Eric Dyer, Joe Gomez, Gurhey, Max Kilman, Harry Maguire, Tyrone Mings, John Stones, and Tomore. I think they'd be the players that we kind of look at. Of course, with Ben White, we've already got in our squad. Let's dive straight into that. First and foremost, I think a lot of the chat have mentioned this player's name already. We're going to go and bring Joe Gomez. I think that's a great shout for England as another kind of right-sided centre-back. In there, I think he's got the options. With Joe Gomez this season, it's been an interesting season for him. I think we can all agree. He's had some good games and he's had some bad games. Just looking at some of the performances in recent weeks, it kind of shows a real, we need to start seeing the best of Joe Gomez and the level that he showed against Man City. Because you go back to the Napoli game in the Champions League, just coming back from injury, Joe Gomez had an absolute shocker in that match. It was completely opened up by Cravadonna on the left wing. But take you forward to the Man City game. Man of the match for me at centre-half. Absolutely brilliant at defending the channels. Superb on the cover. 6 clearances, won 3 out of 3 of his tackles in that match. I thought he was simply sublime. Defended very, very well. So I think I'd throw Joe Gomez into the squad. I think he's got that recovery pace, which I think you need. He's got that ability to play out from the back. And I feel there's a good kind of level of Joe Gomez in there. So I think we're gonna select him because I think his form has been really, really good in the last sort of 3 games. And I feel that will build to the World Cup with England. Moving to our centre-backs in there, or, kind of looking at it from that perspective when they're playing a back 3, I think Eric Dyer's got to go in. He's been really good for Antonio Conte's Spurs. He's been one of the best centre-backs in the league this season. He's finally showing a lot of promise playing in those positions. Not only has he kind of given Spurs a kind of leadership out the back, but his passing's been very, very good. And I feel this is a position that really suits him. Eric Dyer has played right back, played central midfield, played centre half, and giving England that kind of central figure that consistently plays in a back 3 means as soon as England want to bring that formation or play that role, get him into the starting 11. I think that's a big, big part of of what he's going to do. Very good game against Leicester City in the league. A battling performance, a leadership performance, organising. I think Eric Dyer's started, slowly starting to hit the peak of his form and what he can do in there. Other sort of centre backs you'd throw in there as well. Harry Maguire's another one that's obviously mentioned, but injured. I don't know whether I bring a player into the tournament injured, hence why I wouldn't take Reece James, hence why I wouldn't take Kyle Walker. John Stones is the other one. I think John Stones on his day could be one of the best centre-backs in the world. So I would risk that. According to Pep Guardiola, it's a kind of short-term injury, so shouldn't be too long before he comes back. He needs to gain some form into the World Cup because arguably he's best, he's England's best centre-back on the day in there. So I'd definitely throw in John Stones, Eric Dyer as our two centre-backs. Now kind of our left-sided centre-backs opens up an interesting discussion. I think Tomore's got to go based on what he's done with Milan. The ability in the box to defend, but also pace on the cover, duels, all really good statistics from that level. I kind of like what I've seen from Tomore. I think he's really grown in Italy and become a lot more Italian about him. So definitely I'd have him as one of my centre-halves. I think I'd probably have him starting with John Stones, kind of a real dynamic duo for England. Other players have got Tyrone Mings, have got Max Kilman that could play left centre-half in a back three as well. Guehi, who's done exceedingly well for Crystal Palace. But I would quite like England to take Aaron Cresswell. Aaron Cresswell would give England a player that can not only play as a left-back, as cover, and does that supremely well for Everton as a crosser. But set pieces is a big thing at the international tournaments, and England need to have as many of those in the squad. I think, you've got your Trippiers, you've got your Trent Alexander-Arnolds, you've got your James Ward-Prowses, but I think Cresswell's got great delivery from the left-hand side. 3 assists from corners last season in there. I quite like the idea of bringing him. Maybe not as a starter. I think maybe Luke Shaw and Chilwell are maybe ahead of him at left back, but as a left centre half, I think could be a really interesting option. And these are the positions, obviously, where there's loads of options. When you go past maybe 23 players, there's only a few players that you're looking at now, and I genuinely think Cresswell could be a really good option for England, especially in an attacking sense. His delivery is one of the best in the Premier League, and West Ham are getting back into form. He's getting back into form. I like it. So on to left backs. Left backs for England, the likes of Matt Targett. Again, we mentioned Cresswell could play that position. Kyle Walker-Peters could play slightly inverted. But I think the two main ones that have probably got to go, Chilwell and Luke Shaw, are the two kind of standout options. Obviously, Luke Shaw, fantastic at the European Championships, team of the tournament. You'd probably have him as the starting left back, but again, not starting for United at the moment, so that's got to be a question. But Chilwell, only just come back into the Chelsea team. Left back is a problem, and I think that's where Cresswell could be a good option as well, because if Cresswell comes into the tournament in great form, you potentially could go with him. You think about the changes in game England could make with Cresswell in there. You potentially could switch in game from a sort of back four to a back five. You're thinking throwing Cresswell into that position. England, let's say they go a goal up, and then kind of want to sit back and defend. You could drop Saka back to left wing back. You could throw maybe Ben White to right wing back, or if you're starting Kieran Trippier into right wing back, Mount inside right, Foden inside left, and then Kane up front. You've instantly got a tactical change there. That's why I quite like the idea of getting Cresswell in there. I think he's more natural playing that position than Chilwell and than Luke Shaw. Obviously, Luke Shaw's played there previously, played there against Lionel Messi, but I do like the idea of getting Cresswell into the 11. Right, let's move into midfield. Midfield, we've got 6s, we've got 8s, and we've got 10s. I think we're going to take a look at all those right now. I think first and foremost, the first player on the team sheet for me is Declan Rice. Absolutely superb footballer. got great ability on and off the ball, wins tackles, wins duels. His carrying has really been evolving over the sort of last season and a half. He's in the top 5% of defensive midfielders in Europe for interceptions, the top 7% of midfielders for passes completed, averaging a 90% pass accuracy, a goal and 2 assists this season. He is a shoehorn into the team. Other defensive midfielders, I think England have got a bit of a hole at defensive midfield. I think that is another slight problem of the squad. Kelvin Phillips is the natural one to come in, but injury concerns over Kelvin Phillips. That is a bit of a problem. But I don't think England have got many players that can play that role as well as Kelvin Phillips. Into number 8 or into central midfield, you're probably going to go with Jordan Henderson as one of the 8s. And then you're probably going to be throwing in a James Ward-Prowse. I say James Ward-Prowse and Jordan Henderson as the 8s because I feel like they are true 8s. I'm going to throw Jude Bellingham into attacking midfield. I think Jude Bellingham is an attacking midfielder. So in terms of where I'm playing for England in the 4-2-3-1 would be either attacking midfield or maybe if you want to chase the game as number 8. I just think that you've got a player that really excels in between the lines, and England need to use him in that position. Look, I'd play England as a 4-3-3, and I'd play Rice holding and then Bellingham and Mount in midfield. No, 3-8 concept. But England aren't going to do that. So I think when you're looking at positions, Jude Bellingham suits playing high. He's got 5 goal involvements in the Champions League in 4 games this season, 4 goals and an assist. That's what I mean. You get the guy close to the penalty area and get him to do some damage. I think it's one of these things he's almost been misprofiled at times when he's been playing for England. I don't think he suits playing in a kind of 3 at the back system in defensive midfield. It just doesn't suit his game. Bellingham's at his best when he's carrying, when he's in between the lines, when he's creating. And I think that's a big, big part of where he's going to go. So, Jude as a number 10, absolutely fantastic. I just feel like in those sort of 2-6 positions, you need someone that's slightly different. I think at times Jude Bellingham drifts through games in defensive midfield, whereas you play him high and he gets that moment to sort of pick up the ball and carry and drive and run at the opposition. You've got a real outlet there. And again, you've got to look at Mason Mount's form at the moment being better in there. So kind of the only way to get Bellingham and Mount into the same team, sort of 2 number 10s, is having Declan Rice as a holding midfielder and playing with 3 8s, which technically means you probably need to go with Ben White to balance, and then potentially even Trippier to play inverted, or Luke Shaw to play inverted to kind of join Declan Rice. That's where I see England. That's what I would do. But we're going for the rigid 4-2-3-1, unfortunately, guys. So Bellingham into attacking midfield makes sense for me. Obviously joining in Mason Mount, superb. Been absolutely sensational in the Premier League in the last 3 games. Directly involved in 5 goals. The guy is just playing great football. Graham Potter is the greatest thing that could have happened to Mason Mount. Those two are going to fly together. Other options in midfield we've got to talk about. Eze, I think the tournament becomes maybe a season too early for him, but he's shown great form for Crystal Palace. Ruben Loftus-Cheek adds something different to England's midfield, a carrying, a driving, but I think you get that with Jude Bellingham, so he covers that position for me. Conor Gallagher, I think if he'd started the season playing for Chelsea midfield, he would have gone as well, but I think he is more of an attacking midfielder, and I'd go with Mount and Bellingham over him. Harvey Elliott is an interesting shout. Maybe could come in, play on the right-hand side if his form kind of continues to grow as it is doing at the moment. I wouldn't go with Jesse Lingard as well. He hasn't been very good at Nottingham Forest. I think that's all of our midfield options that we are looking at. Right, let's move to our attacking line. Our attacking line, our right wing strikers, left wingers. I think first and foremost we have to talk about the elephant in the room. James Maddison. James Maddison is on the plane for me. But you ask Dave, where's he going to go? James Maddison this season, for Leicester City, has actually been playing right wing, should I say. Right wing, which is where I'd put him in the team. I think when you're looking at what he's done this season for Leicester City, who have been god-awful, you have to take this man. This man is in such good form that you can't ignore it. You're looking at goals, assists. You're looking just this season in the Premier League. He's rocked up a whopping 5 goals and 2 assists. Back end of last season, in the last 4 games, 4 goals, 3 assists. The guy is in form. But he's in form playing wide right. And that's something that we need to not ignore. He is in form, playing as a right wing. He is versatile. He could play left, could play central midfield, could play on the right wing. But he's doing it on the right wing at the moment, drifting inside. And from a tactical perspective, it gives England a great option. So, we'll flip back to maybe our workman-like team, Rice, Ward-Prowse and Mount in that area. What I feel like Maddison should be used in this squad is an option to play on the right, to pair up with Kieran Trippier. Speak about relationships because they're very, very important in football. What Maddison's been doing for Leicester City is drifting inside. He's moving into that number 10 area. So would join Mason Mount in number 10, would allow Kieran Trippier to join and make that front five. Another reason why Cresswell might be a great option. We'll keep going back to this, but Cresswell is a great option here. I'm banging the Cresswell drum on my own. But I feel that gives England great balance. Maddison inside, Trippier on the overlap. Maddison's ability to find passes, but also get shots away. It's humongous. Will change the game for England on the right wing. I feel like that's got to be a big, big component. I think Saka's obviously first choice on the right wing. He's been brilliant over the last few years and could do the same role for England. But I think Maddison's that impact player off the bench. Also could throw him into number 10. Could throw him onto the left, as we mentioned there. I think he's an absolute must-have in Gareth Southgate's squad and would be really, really silly not to take James Maddison, consider his form. As we mentioned just previously there, you've got to throw in Bukayo Saka. What a human, what a man, what a footballer. So good. Should have, really won the Golden Boy Award, in my opinion. But hey, I don't make the rules. I do not make the rules. I think one of the other sides of, obviously, Phil Foden is an interesting one in this England team. Whether we include him right or wide left. Sterling is another one that's... I think that's kind of shoehorned into the squad. I think he's kind of done enough this season for Chelsea to be in there. I think he's shown great form for England. Probably would go with Foden starting wide left. So we're going to put Foden as the first choice. Form in the Premier League this season has been very, very good as well. Looking at his statistics, Foden is the in-form England player. 6 goals and assists this season in his Premier League games. The sort of the top scoring midfielder, one of the top scoring midfielders in the league. I just like what he's doing. But he's been playing from the right as well, which kind of builds this fluidity between Saka and Foden that they could switch wings frequently, which you want to see for England. Sterling goes in there as the kind of the older, goal scoring option. You guarantee what you're gonna get in the team in there. Let's take a look at our strikers. Obviously, Harry Kane is absolutely guaranteed to being in there for England. What he's done for England, I think it's very good. The way that he drops off and holds that number 10 area has been fantastic. It's one of these players that's just in form. 22 goals in 2022 in the Premier League, the top scorer. I'd also throw in Ivan Toney. Form reasons, again, directly involved in 10 Premier League goals, the same as Harry Kane, which is the joint for any English player. Other options up front, obviously, you've got the likes of Ollie Watkins, who's not really exploded this season. Callum Wilson's got 4 goals plus assists in 6 games, which are good options, but I wouldn't, go straight away. Calvert-Lewin, on the other hand, obviously injuries is a big problem. He's missed 167 days, over the last 418 days to play. It's a whopping 24 games missed. I wouldn't trust that in an international tournament. If he gets injured, there'd be a real problem for England. Tammy Abraham, I think it's unfair for him to miss out, but I think in this squad you need a forward that can receive to feet. I don't know if Abraham has quite got that to his game now. I think in a few years he will do, but he's more of that advanced forward. I want a kind of deep lying forward in there. Solanke's the other interesting option. 41 goal involvements since the start of last season. Would I take him? No. I think there's other players that I'd pick over him in the squad. I think this is kind of the basis of what we've got right now. And the only other decision point would be you've basically got one player left in the squad. I think players that we could be looking at for this last position: Jack Grealish, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho. It's between those guys that come in to how, that the form needs to be in there for these guys. If Rashford flies in the next 2-3 weeks, Rashford goes in. If Grealish does, Grealish goes in. Sancho, flies, Sancho goes in. I think for Southgate, it will be Jack Grealish. I think obviously he likes the players in and around the squad in there. But I'm saying if Rashford hits some big form, get him in the squad. Same with Sancho and same with Grealish. England can announce a bigger squad. They're allowed to make a bigger squad right now. They can make up to a 55-man squad. So having those two players in and around the squad right now is important. So that kind of last position in my World Cup squad will go down to form between Grealish, Rashford and Jadon Sancho. From a tactical perspective, I'm going to go a little bit rogue and we're going to play Alexander-Arnold as a right central midfielder. Kind of that box-to-box role with Ben White. So I'd like England to set up in the tournament, allowing Shaw to join Declan Rice in that kind of DM role. Trent moving into the inside right channel as a playmaker. Ben White sitting as a third centre-back. And Saka, Foden, Kane through the middle. That's what I'd like to see. Kind of a 3-4-3 shape in an attacking sense with a third centre-half and an inverted fullback is what I'd go with. I also think there's interchange in there, in terms of bringing in the likes of Jude Bellingham, really good option. Maddison, as we mentioned, on the right as well. A lot of quality in this England squad. They should win the World Cup with my squad. That's what I'm going to say. We'll leave it on. So that is my England squad for the World Cup in Qatar. A lot of crazy ideas in there, guys. Get into the comments below if you have any more crazy ideas or players that I've missed out on. Anyway, subscribe if you're new. Check out SofaScore. We'll see you later.